A good writer must also be a good reader. So, fellow writers, what are you reading these days and what lessons can you learn from it to apply to your own writing? Hey, it's Sam with another Friday video for you here. If you can see my background, you see, yes, I am still away from home from my usual spot. I've had a nice summer vacation this week in Asheville, North Carolina at an Airbnb out here. But we are getting on a plane this afternoon to head back home to Texas. So after this, I should be in a little bit normal spot. I know this is a little earlier than in the morning than I usually do my videos, but just we got to check out the Airbnb and get on the road. So this is the only time I could do it. Writing updates, I don't have a whole lot right now. I kind of have a vision. I think I figured out how to fix the last couple scenes in my introduction that I wanted to fix. I haven't had time to do it all yet. So it might be another few weeks, maybe a month of work, but I'm there is an end in sight, and I want to wrap it up and get to querying again soon, and maybe a month or two. So that's the goal. Anyway, back to the original question. I wanted to talk to you about writing and reading and things like that. I do book reviews about once a month, but last month I started doing comic book reviews too because I read a bunch of comic books, and I'm writing a superhero story, so which is in many ways my love letter to the Marvel and DC comics that I've read my whole life, and and I've been inspired by a lot of those writers. So I'm going to tell you about a writer who is one of my favorite comic book writers, I've met some comic fans who didn't like him as much, but I like him a lot. He's written a lot of stuff for Marvel, and then about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, he switched over to DC and has been doing stuff for them. His name is Brian Michael Bendis. If you've heard of him, if you read comics, you've probably heard of him. If not, you won't. You might not know his name, but you probably know some of the characters he's been involved with and such. So where where do I begin? Yeah, I think so. I first discovered him as a teenager reading Spider-Man comics. 12, when I was 12 or 13, he Bendis wrote Ultimate Spider-Man, which was like an alternate reality. It was like a rebooted universe. It was separate from the main Marvel universe, but it was like Spider-Man was an angsty teenager again. And when I was an angsty teenager at 12 or 13, that's the kind of stuff I wanted to read. And I mean, now as an adult, I'm not sure if I'd say all this is like deep or whatever, but it was very engaging to an angsty teenager at the time. It felt like it felt like great writing and great storytelling and great character development to me at the time. Because I was like, Peter Parker, I know what you're going through or whatever, and all this stuff. Um, Thing is, since that was like a separate universe, they were able to be like do more experiments and do things that they couldn't do in the main Marvel universe. They actually killed that Spider-Man off later on, that version of Peter Parker, and in that universe, a new Spider-Man came to exist, who is Miles Morales. So if you've seen the Spider-Verse movies with Miles Morales, that was his origin story. Brian Bendis created Miles Morales. He was the mind behind that. He's done other stuff for Marvel too. He created Jessica Jones. If you've seen that show on Netflix, it's one of the Defenders shows. Darker. Well, it's on Disney Plus now. It was originally on Netflix, but the darker, more mature Netflix show is based on darker, more mature comics. He created that character. Ironheart. She was in the Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie, and she's supposed to be getting her own Disney Plus series. Brian Bendis created that character. He's written for Daredevil. He's written for Moon Knight, Avengers, X-Men, Iron Man, a lot of stuff in Marvel. I'll talk about DC a little bit later. What I like about him, and what I'd say he's started to be known for, is kind of like I'd say he's good at writing team dynamics well, and I mean he has like balancing a bunch of different characters, and he's known for also for witty dialogue, and I mean dialogue that I think is, I mean, it's often comical. I mean, you write a lot of stuff, not everything lands the way you want it to. I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect or the epitome of greatness, but he's kind of known for witty dialogue. I used to say, I used to say so last time I did a review, I called Jonathan Hickman the Christopher Nolan of comics. I used to say Brian Bendis was like the Joss Whedon of comics. I know Joss Whedon has now fallen from grace, and even I don't endorse him. And even before that, I had a love-hate relationship with his works. But when he was popular, he was known for team dynamics and witty dialogue and things like that. I think Bendis does that really well in the comic book format, and I think he does well at balancing the drama with the comedy, the serious with the silly. A lot of the superhero movies today they seem to be going more jokey, and I don't always like that. I think some do it better than others. Um, I have thought Bendis does a good job of uh, typically of balancing those two together, um, and the drama and the comedy. And I've worked with comic book fans who I don't know, maybe they're tired of his dialogue, or they think that maybe they don't think it's as funny, or they maybe didn't land with them. I don't know. I've usually enjoyed it. So there you go. Um, but it's not all jokey. Like, I mean, Spider-Man's a lighthearted character, although Bendis' version of him, I'd say, was more angsty and more, I guess, a little darker. I mean, not grim dark like Batman, but a little darker than classic Peter Parker maybe. He also wrote Daredevil for a while, which was a dark character, and Jessica Jones, of course, is a dark, mature character. And I will say, like Daredevil used to be a B-list character for me. I was like, yeah, yeah, he's there, I guess, but he's not one of my favorites. When I read Bendis' run on Daredevil in the 2000s, I was like, this is amazing. Daredevil's now one of my favorite characters. Moon Knight, too. I didn't know much about him before I read Bendis' short run on him. And I was like, Moon Knight, I know he exists, but I don't know much about him. Um, and I read Bendis' run on dealing with this character who has multiple personalities. And I was like mind blown. And I was like, um, he did this thing where actually I'll tell you this briefly. Um, he, like in the first issue of this comic, some years ago in the 2000s, but he like Moon Knight was talking to like other heroes like Wolverine, Spider-Man, Captain America, um, and if you watch the Moon Knight show on Disney Plus, Moon Knight has multiple different personalities within him. Anyway, the end of that first issue, he's alone. He was talking to them, but then you see Moon Knight in a room alone, and you're like, wait, they weren't actually there. He was making up versions in his mind of like these other great heroes, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Captain America, and they throughout like they were like voices in his head, kind of guiding him to be different kinds of heroes, and that's really interesting to me. Anyway, so he's done a lot of cool stuff. A lot of stuff that I think that has made an impression on me. Like I said, about 5 or 6 years ago, he changed over to switch over to DC. So he's been writing the Superman titles, like Action Comics and Superman and stuff like that. And I just these past couple of days were reading some of other stuff, Legion of Superheroes and Young Justice. So in Superman's world, Bendis has done some interesting things. Well, okay, so first of all, Superman already, after a recent-ish reboot, Superman has a son named John Kent. Bendis didn't do that, but didn't create that, but he's worked with the character a lot since then. Let me think. Yeah, so one interesting thing he did was in Superman's world was there's now this character called Ruggle Zar, who it's a little bit of a retcon, a little bit of a gimmick, but that happens in the comic book world. Um, Ruggle Zar is this alien being who actually was responsible for Krypton's destruction. So we always thought, oh, Krypton just exploded by itself or whatever, or there were natural causes, but now this being is claiming responsibility for it, and he's like waging a genocidal war against Krypton. A little gimmicky, a little retconny that comes with territory in comic books, but it brings an interesting new threat into Superman's life. Um, Bendis also, so John Kent was like 8 or 10 ish probably in the comics, and he was like a little kid trying to be Superboy. Bendis had him spend some time in the future, and then when he came back, he was a teenager, which I get why he did it. I kind of didn't like it because I was really enjoying the friendship of young John with Batman's son Robin, Batman's son Damien, who is Robin, and then he made Superboy a teenager instead. I get why they did it. It's kind of like the show of Superman and Lois, which I really have enjoyed. Superman has two teenage boys, and I think that allows for more maturity of characters a little bit, and just more potential character drama there. But yeah, Bendis has been working with Superman and the new Superboy, who's John Kent, a teenager. So yeah, I was reading those, and Young Justice is a series. It's like Teen Titans. It's like Robin and Superboy and Wonder Girl and some of the other people, some of the other teenage versions of superheroes, and then Legion of Superheroes takes place in the far future, like the year 3000, and they explore space and stuff like that. But Superboy is now in the future helping them out. So Bendis is involved with that stuff too. It's fun stuff. It's creative and just lots of different stories. So I guess I was going to say the other thing that he did to Superman, kind of recently. I always imagined this before, and I was like, what if this happened? Because I think through different scenarios. He had Clark Kent reveal his identity to the world. It was just kind of like, it was like I have a family, but I'm being pulled in different directions with one identity and another identity, and he was just kind of like I'm not worried about threats because he's Superman, and who can touch Superman? So he's like I feel like I don't need to hide this part of me anymore. Clark Kent revealed his identity to the public, and now everyone knows he's Superman. I'm sure a writer can undo that one day if they want to. If there have been ways that that's been done, like in the last couple of Spider-Man movies, that they revealed an identity and used magic to undo it. Actually, Bendis' one on Daredevil that I read back in the 2000s did that too. Daredevil was found out. He didn't. She was revealed. He was found out by a newspaper person, and everyone knew he was Daredevil. And then eventually later, like a few years ago, another writer used mass mind control to undo that. So Daredevil's identity is a secret again. So yes, comic books go in cycles. These things do happen, but I always think it's a really dramatic thing and really like mind blowing when sometimes when it's like when characters' secrets are revealed for them and these things like secret identities are revealed for them. Spoilers, I might be doing that in my book one of these times. Anyway, yeah, so Bendis has done that with Daredevil, and now he's done that with Superman too. So I'm just really interested to see where this is going. He's taking, he's created a few new characters who I think are cool, and who are now fan favorite characters like Miles Morales. But he's also taken long-standing characters who existed before him and made me care about them a lot more, and just done these crazy plots that make me go like, what? And I think it's cool. Again, I touched on this, but he definitely has a range. Like he can do characters who are a little more lighthearted, like Superman, Superboy, Legion of Superheroes, that kind of thing. I guess Miles Morales, Spider-Man is a little more lighthearted, but he can also do characters who are dark and mature, like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and all that stuff. And I think he's done both. I've seen him do both really well. So anyway, that's one of my favorite writers, Brian Michael Bendis. Um, if you're if you're a comic books fan, or if you even want to get into comic books, I mean, look up any of the ones I just read. You can find comic books often or graphic novels at your local library or in the store, or maybe you use bookstore or something. But if you find anything I just mentioned, if that's one of your favorite characters, like Spider-Man, Avengers, Superman, Daredevil, any of those, if you like any of those, look for some of the ones Brian Michael Bendis has written, and I think you'll be in for a treat. I think you'll be at the very least entertained, and hopefully maybe even more than that too. Maybe even it'll be some maybe even have your mind blown a little bit. But I'd say a tip or two writers can learn from him. I'd say you know um, dialogue is a good area to explore, like witty but and or just realistic teen dialogue. He doesn't do the over narration and over I guess over exposition that at one time comic books did. I mean years ago, but he just has people talking more or less like real people, or tries to. And I'd say and once in a while he's done extra things that kind of blow your mind, or just surprise you and make you really care about these characters, and it's like what. So yeah, I've liked what he's read. I follow I follow characters largely, not solely authors, but basically anything by Bendis I want to read now because he's become one of my favorites. So anyway, um, there you go. That's my recommendation for a writer for something to read if you're into reading comics, and for a writer to emulate. Hope that helps. Anyway, have a great weekend, everyone. Keep writing, keep reading, keep doing your thing. I'll see you later. Bye.